Mia woke up early, her heart pounding with excitement. Today was her second day at her new job and she couldn't wait to prove herself. She had been searching for work for months and finally she had found one. It wasn't an easy job but Mia didn't care. She was happy to have it. The sky outside was dark and the air was cold. Heavy rain poured down, making the roads wet and slippery. Mia grabbed her small umbrella and hurried out the door. She couldn't afford to be late. As she walked, the rain beat down harder and the wind tugged at her umbrella. Mia held it tightly, her shoes splashing through puddles. She was almost at the office when something made her stop. An old woman stood in the rain, shivering. Her clothes were soaked and her feet were bare. She had no umbrella, no coat, nothing to protect her from the cold. She just stood there looking lost. Mia's heart ached. She couldn't just walk past. She hurried over to the woman and held her umbrella over her head. "Mama, take this," Mia said, handing her the umbrella. "You'll get sick out here. You need to go home." The old woman looked at Mia with tired eyes and shook her head. "Bye, child, I have nowhere to go. I just came from the village. I know no one here." Mia's heart broke. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the little money she had. It wasn't much, but it was all she had for the day. "Here, Mama," Mia said, holding out the money. "Take this and find somewhere to stay." But the old woman didn't take the money. She looked at Mia and said, "I cannot take what you need for yourself, my child." Mia thought for a moment, then she smiled. "Come with me. I'm going to work. You can stay with me until you find your way." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "May the gods bless you, my daughter." Mia held the old woman's hand and they walked together under the umbrella. When they reached Mia's office, she found a small corner for the old woman to sit. She helped her dry her wet clothes as best as she could. "Mama, don't worry," Mia said. "I have only a few hours before break time. After the break, I'll take you home quickly before coming back to work." The old woman smiled and nodded. She watched Mia as she worked, her heart full of gratitude. This young girl had so little, yet she gave so much. A few hours later, Mia left the office during her break. She walked quickly under the hot sun, heading to a nearby shop to buy food for herself and the old woman. She didn't have much money, but she didn't care. Mama needed to eat. While Mia was still out, Vanessa walked into the office. Her high heels clicked loudly against the floor. She had come to surprise her fiancé, Daniel, the CEO. She loved showing up unannounced, just to remind everyone that she was soon going to be their boss's wife. As she entered, she spotted the old woman sitting quietly in a corner. The woman was folding her hands in her lap, looking down at the floor humbly. Vanessa frowned, disgusted. "Who brought this dirty, poor beggar here?" she asked loudly, making sure everyone in the office could hear. The old woman slowly looked up at her, confused. "My child, please do not be angry. I will leave now," she said softly. Vanessa scoffed and crossed her arms. "You better. This is my husband-to-be's company. You are not needed here, you dirty old woman. Now get out." The old woman sighed and shook her head. "You have a bad character, my daughter. I wonder what kind of man would take you as his wife." Vanessa's eyes widened with rage. "You poor old woman, just shut up and leave. You have no right to talk about me." The old woman slowly stood up, her frail hands trembling slightly as she walked toward the door. She did not argue. She did not fight back. She only walked out, holding back the tears that threatened to fall. Mia arrived at the office, excited to share the meal she had bought for the old woman. But as she approached the building, she saw something that made her stop. The old woman was outside, standing near the gate, looking sad and defeated. Mia's heart skipped a beat. "Mama, what are you doing out here?" she asked, rushing to her. The old woman sighed heavily. "My child, do not be angry. A woman came in and told me to leave. She said I was dirty and poor and that I do not belong here." Mia's hands clenched into fists. "Who dared to do this to you?" she asked, her voice shaking with anger. The old woman hesitated for a moment before saying, "She said she is the CEO's wife-to-be. Her name is Vanessa." Mia's blood boiled. She turned sharply and stormed inside the office. Vanessa was still there, sitting comfortably on one of the office chairs, looking at her nails like nothing had happened. Mia walked straight up to her. "Vanessa," she called, her voice firm and strong. Vanessa looked up lazily. When she saw Mia, she smiled. "Oh, the poor little worker's back. What do you want?" Mia's eyes burned with anger. "How dare you treat my mother that way? What gives you the right to insult an elderly woman? Vanessa rolled her eyes and laughed mockingly. Your mother? That dirty beggar? Oh please. I warned Daniel not to hire you, but he didn't listen. And now you are here shouting at me. Mia took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, but the anger in her heart was too strong. You don't even know if your boss will marry you. I mean, look at you, so mannerless, so full of yourself. Vanessa's face darkened. What did you just say? She hissed. Mia stepped closer. You heard me. If you can treat a helpless old woman like that, I wonder how you will treat your future mother-in-law. Or do you think she will be happy with the way you behave? Vanessa scoffed. Never. My mother-in-law is not poor and dirty like that old woman. She is classy and beautiful just like me. I know she will love me when she sees me. Mia shook her head in disappointment. You are so blind, Vanessa. You think beauty and money make a good wife? No, a good wife is kind, respectful, and loving. But you are arrogant and cruel. You will never know what true love is. Vanessa's eyes burned with rage. She stood up and pointed a finger at Mia. I promise you, you are going to lose your job. Believe me, you will regret talking to me like this. Mia laughed bitterly. I don't care. I don't want to work in a place where people like you exist. You insulted my mother. You disrespected her. And now you think you can threaten me? Do your worst, Vanessa. I am taking my mother home and I don't care about this stupid job anymore. With that, Mia turned around and stormed out of the office. Vanessa clenched her fists, her face red with anger. We shall see, you poor little girl. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, she hissed. Outside, the old woman was waiting. When Mia came out, she could see the pain in the old woman's eyes. My child, you did not have to fight for me, the old woman said softly. Mia smiled and held her hand. I had to, Mama. No one has the right to treat you that way. Let's go home. As they walked away, Mia felt a sense of peace. But little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Mia and the old woman, whom she now called Grandma Rose, walked home together under the fading sunlight. The streets were quieter now and the rain had stopped, leaving behind a cool, fresh breeze. Mia's heart was heavy, but she felt proud for standing up for Grandma Rose. Still, the thought of losing her job lingered in her mind like a dark cloud. When they reached Mia's small one-room apartment, she helped Grandma Rose sit on the old mattress that served as her bed. The room was simple, just a wooden table, a single cooking pot, and a few belongings. It wasn't much, but it was home. Mama, I know this place is small, but you can stay here with me as long as you need, Mia said, handing Grandma Rose a cup of water. Grandma Rose smiled warmly. My child, a home is not about size. It's about the love inside. And I can see you have a kind heart. Mia smiled back and began serving the food she had bought earlier. As they ate, Grandma Rose suddenly sighed and looked at Mia thoughtfully. My daughter, Grandma Rose began, I came to this city for a reason. Mia looked up, curious. Why, Grandma? What brought you here? Grandma Rose hesitated for a moment before speaking. I came to find a wife for my son. Mia blinked in surprise. Your son? Grandma Rose nodded. Yes, my child. He is a good man, hardworking and kind. But he is not married and I fear he might never settle down. Mia smiled. That's a mother's worry, Grandma. I'm sure he will find a wife when the time is right. Grandma Rose held Mia's hands gently. That is why I want you to be his wife. Mia's eyes widened. She almost choked on her food. Me? Grandma Rose nodded, smiling. Yes, my daughter. From the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You are kind, respectful, and hardworking. You will make a good wife for my son. Mia was speechless. She had not expected this at all. She looked at Grandma Rose, who was staring at her with hope in her eyes. After a moment, Mia sighed and said, Okay, Grandma, but I have to see him first. We need to know each other before talking about marriage. Grandma Rose beamed with happiness. That is fair, my daughter. But I must tell you something first. Mia tilted her head. What is it, Grandma? Grandma Rose hesitated before speaking. My son has no money. He is not wealthy, but he is very hardworking, very brilliant, and also very handsome. Mia let out a small laugh. Grandma, stop praising your son too much. Let me see him first before you sell him to me like a market woman. Grandma Rose laughed happily. Okay, my child. You will see him soon. Mia smiled and shook her head. She didn't know what to expect, but she was curious. The next morning, Mia woke up early, her mind still spinning from Grandma Rose's words. She had just finished her morning chores when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello, good morning," she said. A deep, calm voice came from the other end. "Good morning. Am I speaking with Mia?" "Yes, this is Mia." "Who is this, please?" "My name is Daniel. My mother gave me your number. She told me about you, how kind you were to her and how you agreed to meet me." Mia's heart skipped a beat. This was Grandma Rose's son. "Oh, Daniel. Your mother spoke a lot about you too. She said you are a hardworking man." Daniel chuckled lightly. "I try my best. Mama also told me you wanted to meet first before making any decisions. I respect that. So, can we meet tomorrow?" Mia didn't hesitate. "Yes, that sounds fine. Where would you like us to meet?" "There's a small park not too far from the main market. It's quiet and has a few benches where we can sit and talk. Would that be okay?" "Yes, that sounds fine. What time?" "Let's meet by 2 p.m. That way the sun won't be too hot." "All right. I'll be there," Mia said. "Thank you, Mia. I look forward to meeting you." "Same here, Daniel. Have a good night." "You too," Daniel replied before ending the call. Mia placed the phone down and let out a deep breath. She was nervous but excited. She had no idea that Daniel was not the struggling man Grandma Rose had described. In fact, he was the CEO of the company she had just been fired from. The next day, Mia arrived at the park early. She wore a simple dress and flat sandals, wanting to look nice but not too extravagant. She sat on a bench under a tree, glancing around nervously. At exactly 2 p.m. Daniel arrived. He wore faded jeans and a plain t-shirt, his hair slightly messy. He looked ordinary, just as Grandma Rose had described. Mia stood up and waved, and he smiled as he walked toward her. "You must be Mia," he said, sitting down beside her. "Yes, and you must be Daniel," Mia replied with a warm smile. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, studying each other. Mia spoke first, her voice light and playful. "I don't know why you bear the same name as that foolish boss who sacked me." Daniel burst into laughter, trying to control himself. "Really? Your boss was also named Daniel?" Mia shook her head, crossing her arms. "Not was, he is. And I will never forget how he fired me over a lie. His fiancée is the most wicked and arrogant person I have ever met. She threw an old woman out of the office like she was nothing, and I defended her. Instead of investigating the matter, my boss chose to listen to his fiancée and sacked me." Daniel leaned forward, pretending to be curious. "Wow, that sounds terrible. What kind of man would fire someone without hearing both sides of the story?" Mia scoffed. "A blind, foolish man who lets a woman control him. Honestly, I feel sorry for him." Daniel held back another laugh. "Maybe he regrets it now." Mia frowned. "Well, that's his business. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Tell me about yourself, Daniel. Your mother said a lot about you, but I'd rather hear it from you." Daniel smiled. "Well, there isn't much to say. I am just a simple guy trying to make ends meet. I do small jobs here and there trying to survive. Life hasn't been easy, but I keep pushing." Mia nodded, looking at him closely. "I respect that. Hard work is important. So, do you have dreams? Things you hope to achieve?" Daniel's smile widened. "Of course. I may not have much now, but I believe one day I will have a successful business of my own. I want to build something that will last, something that will make my mother proud." Mia's eyes softened. "That is beautiful. Your mother loves you so much. I could see it in her eyes when she spoke about you." Daniel looked down, touched by her words. "She is the most important person in my life. She raised me alone, sacrificed everything for me. I wouldn't be here without her." Mia smiled. "That is why I agreed to meet you. Any man who values his mother is a man worth knowing." Daniel felt something warm in his chest. He had met many women before, but none had ever said something so simple yet so meaningful. As the sun began to set, Mia and Daniel continued talking, sharing little details about their lives. Mia told him about her struggles, how she had been searching for a job for months before finally getting one, only to lose it after 2 days. Daniel listened attentively, nodding as she spoke. Hours passed, and they didn't even notice the sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the park. Daniel looked at Mia and smiled. "I really enjoyed talking to you today." Mia smiled back. "Me too. You're different, Daniel. I like that. Daniel felt a strange sense of happiness. He had only just met her, but something about Mia felt right. This was just the beginning, but he knew one thing for sure. Mia was special. Little did Mia know, Daniel was not the struggling man he pretended to be. He was the CEO of the company she had been fired from, and he was testing her to see if she would love him for who he was, not for his wealth. The lies were piling up, and soon the truth would come crashing down. The next morning, Mia woke up with a smile on her face. Her meeting with Daniel had gone better than she expected. He was kind, humble, and easy to talk to. She couldn't wait to see him again. But as she got ready for the day, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, good morning," Mia answered. A familiar voice came through the line. It was the manager of the company she had been fired from. "Mia, good morning. I hope you are doing well. I am calling on behalf of my boss. He has realized his mistake and wants to make things right. He has decided to re-employ you, but this time as his personal assistant." Mia was shocked. She had not expected this. "Sir, I don't know what to say," she hesitated. The manager continued, "Look, I understand how you feel, but the boss wants to correct his mistake. He has personally requested for you to take this position. You don't have to answer now, but I hope you consider it." Mia wanted to refuse immediately. She had already moved on. But then she remembered the bills piling up. She needed a job, and opportunities like this didn't come often. After a deep breath, she finally said, "Okay, I accept." "That's great, Mia. Please resume tomorrow morning," the manager said before ending the call. Mia sat down, still in shock. She had just agreed to go back to work for the same man who had fired her so easily. She immediately called Grandma Rose. "Grandma, I have good news," Mia said excitedly. Grandma Rose's voice was warm. "Hi, daughter, what is it?" "My old job called me back. They apologized and said my boss has learned from his mistake. They offered me a new position as his personal assistant." Grandma Rose clapped her hands in excitement. "You see, my daughter? Good things come to those who have a good heart. I am so happy for you." Mia smiled. "Thank you, Grandma. But I miss you so much. When are you coming to see me?" Grandma Rose laughed. "Soon, my daughter. Very soon." Mia chuckled, feeling relieved. But before she could say anything else, Grandma Rose continued, "You see, my daughter, my son is a perfect match for you. Look at how he brought you so much good luck. First, you met him, and now your life is changing for the better." Mia groaned playfully. "Grandma, not again. Please don't start." They both laughed. The next day, Mia dressed up in her best outfit and reported to work. This time she was no longer just a regular employee. She was now the personal assistant to the boss himself. As she walked into the building, she felt mixed emotions. She was happy to have a job again, but she also remembered how she had been treated before. She reached the top floor and was directed to the CEO's office. She took a deep breath before knocking on the door. "Come in," a deep voice called out. Mia opened the door and stepped inside. She froze for a moment when she saw the man sitting behind the desk. It was her boss, the same Daniel she had insulted just days ago. The same Daniel she had called foolish. Her heart skipped a beat. She had been talking to him all along and never knew. Daniel smiled. "Welcome back, Mia. I hope you like your new position." Mia was still in shock, but she quickly gathered herself. "Thank you, sir." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I want to sincerely apologize for everything my ex-girlfriend did to you. She was wrong and I should never have believed her. I hope you can forgive me." Mia nodded. "It's fine, sir. I have already moved on." Daniel smiled. "That's good to hear." He then looked at her closely and said, "You look beautiful today." Mia frowned slightly. "Thank you, sir," she said carefully. Daniel continued, "Would you like to go out with me sometime?" Mia's face changed immediately. She sat up straight, her voice firm. "Sir, if this is the reason why you employed me, then I am done. I can't do this." Daniel quickly raised his hands. No, that's not it. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. It was my bad." Mia looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "All right. I just want to focus on my work." After a long and exhausting day at work, Mia finally got home. She threw her bag on the small wooden table and collapsed onto her bed with a deep sigh. Her mind was restless. The day had been strange and she felt uneasy about everything. She reached for her phone and dialed Daniel's number. He picked up after the second ring. "Babe, how are you? Daniel's voice was calm and warm. Mia sighed. Daniel, I don't like my boss. I don't feel comfortable working there. I think I want to stop. Daniel sat up, pretending to be surprised. What happened? Did he do something wrong? Mia frowned. I don't know how to explain it. He apologized for everything that happened before, which is fine. But then, out of nowhere, he started acting strange, saying I look beautiful and asking if I want to go out with him. It was so unprofessional. I told him straight up that if that was why he re-employed me, then I was done. Daniel smiled slightly, though Mia couldn't see him. He admired how firm she was. What did he say after that? Mia sighed again. He apologized and said it wasn't like that. But still, I don't trust him. I feel like he has an agenda. I don't want to deal with workplace drama, Daniel. I think I should just leave before things get worse. Daniel's voice became serious. No. Don't stop. You need that job, eh? Don't let anything distract you. Just focus on your work. If he tries anything funny again, stand your ground. But don't quit because of him. Mia hesitated. Are you sure? Daniel nodded on his end of the call. Yes, I'm sure. You're strong, Mia. You worked hard to get this opportunity. Don't let one uncomfortable moment push you away. Just do your job and don't pay attention to him. Mia sighed. All right, if you say so. I just don't want any trouble. Daniel chuckled. You won't have any trouble. Trust me. Mia yawned. I'm really tired. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, babe. Sleep well, Daniel said, smiling to himself as Mia ended the call. She still felt unsure, but Daniel's words had reassured her. On the other side, Daniel smirked as he placed his phone down. A few weeks later, Mia arrived at work feeling refreshed. She had decided to take Daniel's advice and focus on her job. She wouldn't let her boss's strange behavior distract her. As soon as she walked into the office, her boss called her into his office. She walked in and stood before his desk, waiting for him to speak. He leaned back in his chair and smiled. Mia, as my personal assistant, your position comes with some benefits. First, you will be assigned a car. Second, you will be given a well-furnished apartment close to the office. Mia's eyes widened in shock. She was speechless for a moment before excitement took over. Sir, are you serious? Her boss chuckled. Yes, Mia. This is part of your job. You deserve it. Mia couldn't stop smiling. This was more than she ever expected. Wow, sir, this is amazing. But she paused and narrowed her eyes slightly. I hope this is not what I think it is. The man raised his hands. No, far from that. This is strictly work-related. But Mia, I still like you. You are beautiful and I admire you. Mia's smile disappeared. She took a deep breath and shook her head. Here you go again, sir. Please stop. I'm getting married soon. I am in love with someone else. Please stay away from me. Let's keep this professional. The man sighed, nodding slowly. All right, Mia. I respect your decision. Let's keep things professional. Mia gave him a small nod, then turned and walked out of his office. As soon as she got to her own office, she pulled out her phone and called Daniel. He picked up almost immediately. Babe, you won't believe what just happened, Mia said excitedly. Daniel smiled, pretending not to know. Tell me. What happened? My boss just gave me a car and a well-furnished apartment. Can you imagine? Just like that. Daniel chuckled. Wow, that's great news, babe. You see, I told you not to quit. Look at how things are working out for you. Mia laughed. Yes, you were right. And because of that, I am taking you to a fancy restaurant this weekend. I am going to spoil you, my love. Daniel's smile widened. Babe, do you have money for that? Mia rolled her eyes playfully. Don't worry, okay? I will handle it. I insist. Daniel hesitated for a moment before sighing. Fine. See you this weekend. Mia giggled. Good. Start getting ready to be spoiled. As they ended the call, Daniel leaned back in his chair, shaking his head in amusement. The day finally came. Sandra was excited as she got ready for her date with Daniel. She wore a simple but beautiful blue dress and comfortable heels. She wanted to look nice but not too extravagant. Daniel arrived at her house and together they took a taxi to the restaurant. They talked and laughed on the way, enjoying each other's company. Mia was happy. She had never met a man as easygoing and kind as Daniel. When they arrived at the restaurant, a waiter welcomed them warmly and led them to a cozy table near the window. The place was elegant but not too intimidating. Mia had chosen it carefully, wanting something nice but not too expensive since she was paying. They looked at the menu and ordered their meals. Mia felt proud. It was her first time taking a man out and she wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. The food arrived and they ate while chatting. Mia told Daniel about her day at work and he listened with a smile. She loved how attentive he was. When they finished eating, Mia reached into her purse to get money for the bill. She signaled for the waiter, who walked over with a polite smile. Mia handed him the money, but the waiter gently shook his head. "Ma'am, your bill has already been covered." Mia frowned slightly, surprised. "What do you mean?" The waiter only smiled. "Everything you ate today has been paid for." Mia looked at Daniel in confusion. "Did you do this?" Daniel raised his hands. "Babe, I am a struggling man. How could I afford this?" Mia sighed, looking around the restaurant. "This is strange. Maybe there is some promotion or something." Daniel only smiled and took a sip of his drink. They sat in silence for a few seconds before Daniel suddenly placed his fork down and looked at Mia seriously. "Mia, I have something important to ask you," he said. Mia looked up, curious. "What is it?" Daniel took a deep breath. His heart was pounding, but his face remained calm. "Mia, will you marry me?" Mia froze. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at Daniel, not sure if she had heard correctly. Daniel held her hands gently. "I know this might seem sudden, but I have never met a woman like you before. You are kind, selfless, and full of life. From the first day I met you, I knew you were special. I want to spend my life with you." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, but they were happy tears. Her heart was full. "Yes, Daniel. Yes, I will marry you." Daniel smiled and squeezed her hands. "You just made me the happiest man in the world." Mia laughed softly, wiping her tears. "I can't wait to tell Grandma Rose. She will be so happy." Daniel chuckled. "She will say, 'I told you my son is perfect for you.'" Mia groaned playfully. "Exactly. Grandma won't let me rest." They both laughed. Little did Mia know, Daniel was not the struggling man he pretended to be. He was the CEO of the company she worked for, and he had been testing her to see if she would love him for who he was, not for his wealth. The lies were piling up and soon the truth would come crashing down. A few days after Daniel's proposal, Mia's life felt like a dream. She was engaged to a man she deeply cared for and her job was going well. But something still felt off. Her boss, the man she had once called foolish, continued to act strangely around her. He would compliment her looks, ask her out, and then quickly backtrack when she reminded him of her engagement. Mia tried to ignore it, but the unease in her heart grew. One morning, as Mia was preparing for work, her phone rang. It was Grandma Rose. "Mia, my daughter," Grandma Rose said, her voice warm but urgent. "I need you to come over this weekend. There's something important I must tell you." Mia frowned. "Grandma, is everything okay?" Yes, everything is fine. But I need to see you. Please come." Mia agreed, though her curiosity was piqued. She couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. On Saturday morning, Mia dressed carefully and took a taxi to the address Grandma Rose had given her. As the car drove through the city, the neighborhoods grew fancier. Tall trees lined the streets, and the houses became larger and more luxurious. Mia's heart began to race. This didn't look like the kind of place Grandma Rose would live. When the taxi stopped in front of a massive mansion with tall iron gates, Mia's jaw dropped. She checked the address on her phone again, thinking there must be a mistake. This couldn't be where Grandma Rose lived. She quickly dialed Grandma Rose's number. "Grandma, I think I have the wrong address. I'm standing in front of a big house. This place looks like where rich people live." Grandma Rose chuckled softly. "No, my daughter. You are at the right place. Come inside. I will explain everything." Mia's hands trembled as she ended the call. She hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. The security guard at the gate, who had been expecting her, smiled and let her in. Her heart pounded as she walked toward the grand entrance. The house was breathtaking, with marble floors, tall pillars, and a beautiful garden. When she stepped inside, Grandma Rose was already waiting for her in the large living room. She stood up and hugged Mia tightly. "My daughter, welcome," Grandma Rose said warmly. Mia pulled back slightly, still in shock. "Grandma, what is going on? This house. This is not what you told me before. You said your son was poor." Grandma Rose sighed and held Mia's hands. "My daughter, sit down. I need to tell you the truth." Mia sat down slowly, her heart racing. Grandma Rose took a deep breath. My son Daniel is not poor. He is actually the owner of the company you work for. The man in the office you thought was your boss was sent by Daniel to pretend to be him. Daniel wanted to test you to see if you would love him for who he is, not for his money. Mia's mouth fell open. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. You mean Daniel is not poor? He is the real CEO. He is my boss. Grandma Rose nodded. Yes, my daughter. He never wanted to deceive you in a bad way. He just wanted to be sure of your heart before revealing the truth. Mia shook her head in disbelief. She stood up, pacing the room, trying to process everything. Grandma, you and Daniel went too far. You made me believe he was struggling. You let me think I was taking care of him when all this time he had everything. Grandma Rose looked at her with pleading eyes. I know, my daughter. Please forgive us. It was never meant to hurt you. We only wanted to be sure that you were the right one for him. And you proved it. You loved Daniel even when you thought he had nothing. That is why he chose you. Mia sighed, her emotions swirling. She was mad, but she also loved Daniel and Grandma Rose dearly. After a few moments, she turned to Grandma Rose with a small smile. I am still angry, but I love you and Daniel. I forgive you. Grandma Rose clapped her hands joyfully and hugged her again. Thank you, my daughter. I knew you had a good heart. Later that evening, Daniel arrived home. He had been nervous all day, knowing that Mia would soon learn the truth. When he walked into the living room and saw Mia sitting with his mother, his heart skipped a beat. Mia, he said softly. Mia looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions. Daniel. He walked over and sat beside her, taking her hands in his. I'm sorry, Mia. I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to be sure that you loved me for me, not for my wealth. Mia sighed. I understand why you did it, but it still hurts. You lied to me, Daniel. You made me believe you were someone you're not. Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with regret. I know, and I'm truly sorry. But everything I told you about myself, my dreams, my values, my love for my mother, that was all real. The only thing I hid was my wealth. Mia looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I forgive you, Daniel. But you have to promise me something. Anything, Daniel said quickly. No more secrets. From now on, we're honest with each other no matter what. Daniel smiled, relief washing over him. I promise, Mia. No more secrets. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotions. Mia and Daniel grew closer, their bond stronger now that the truth was out. But just as things seemed to be settling down, Vanessa returned. One afternoon, as Mia was working in her office, Vanessa stormed in. Her eyes were blazing with anger. You, Vanessa hissed, pointing a finger at Mia. You think you can just waltz in here and take everything from me? Mia stood up, her heart pounding. Vanessa, what are you talking about? Vanessa sneered. Don't play dumb. You think you can steal Daniel from me? He's mine. Mia shook her head. Vanessa, Daniel broke up with you. That's between you and him. It has nothing to do with me. Vanessa's face twisted with rage. You're lying. You manipulated him. But I won't let you win. I'll make sure you regret this. Before Mia could respond, Vanessa turned on her heel and stormed out of the office. Mia sat down, her hands trembling. She had a bad feeling about what Vanessa might do next. That evening, Mia told Daniel about Vanessa's visit. His face darkened with anger. Don't worry, Mia, Daniel said firmly. I'll handle Vanessa. She won't bother you again. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Vanessa was unpredictable, and Mia knew she wouldn't give up easily. A few days later, Mia arrived at work to find her office in chaos. Papers were scattered everywhere and her computer had been tampered with. She quickly realized that someone had been trying to access sensitive company files. When Daniel found out, he was furious. He called a meeting with the security team and demanded answers. It didn't take long for them to discover that Vanessa had been behind the break-in. Daniel immediately called Vanessa, his voice cold and firm. Vanessa, if you ever come near Mia or this company again, I will make sure you regret it. Stay away. Vanessa laughed bitterly on the other end of the line. You think you can just throw me away, Daniel? You'll regret this. As the days passed, the tension grew. Vanessa's threats became more frequent, and Mia couldn't help but feel unsafe. Daniel did his best to reassure her, but the damage had been done. The trust between them, once so strong, began to crack. One evening, as Mia and Daniel sat together in the mansion's garden, Mia turned to him with tears in her eyes. Daniel, I love you, but I don't know if I can do this. The lies, the secrets, the threats. It's too much. I feel like I'm losing myself. Daniel's heart ached. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Mia, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Please, give me a chance to make things right. Mia shook her head, her voice breaking. I don't know, Daniel. I just need some time to think. As Mia walked away, Daniel felt a deep sense of loss. He had finally found the woman he wanted to spend his life with, but his lies and Vanessa's schemes had driven a wedge between them. The once bright future they had dreamed of now seemed uncertain. Mia sat alone in her small apartment, staring at the engagement ring on her finger. The sparkle of the diamond felt dull now, weighed down by the lies and mistrust that had crept into her relationship with Daniel. She had asked for time to think, but the more she thought, the more confused she became. She loved Daniel, but could she trust him again? Meanwhile, Daniel was desperate to fix things. He called Mia every day, leaving voicemails filled with apologies and promises. But Mia didn't answer. She needed space, and Daniel had to respect that, even if it killed him. One evening, as Mia was preparing dinner, her phone rang. It was Grandma Rose. Mia, my daughter, Grandma Rose said, her voice gentle but firm. You need to come over. There's something you need to see. Mia hesitated. Grandma, I'm not sure I'm ready to face Daniel yet. This isn't about Daniel, Grandma Rose replied. This is about you. Please just come. Mia sighed. All right, Grandma. I'll be there. When Mia arrived at the mansion, Grandma Rose was waiting for her at the door. She took Mia's hand and led her to the living room, where a large photo album sat on the coffee table. Sit down, my daughter, Grandma Rose said softly. Mia sat, her heart pounding. Grandma Rose opened the album and began flipping through the pages. The photos told a story of Daniel's life. There were pictures of him as a child playing in the dirt with no shoes. Photos of him as a teenager working odd jobs to help his mother. And finally, pictures of him as a young man, building his company from the ground up. Mia, Grandma Rose said, her voice filled with emotion, my son has not had an easy life. Yes, he is wealthy now, but he earned every penny through hard work and sacrifice. He didn't lie to you to hurt you. He lied because he was afraid that no one would love him for who he truly is. Mia's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the photos. She saw the pain and struggle in Daniel's past, and she understood why he had been so desperate to protect himself. I'm not asking you to forgive him right away, Grandma Rose continued, but I am asking you to understand him. He loves you, Mia. And I believe you love him too. Mia nodded, her heart heavy. I do love him, Grandma. But I don't know if I can trust him again. Grandma Rose smiled gently. Trust takes time, my daughter. But it also takes courage. Don't let fear keep you from the love you deserve. As Mia left the mansion that night, her mind was racing. She knew Grandma Rose was right, but she still felt torn. She needed to talk to Daniel not as his fiancé, but as someone who needed answers. The next day Mia called Daniel. He answered on the first ring, his voice filled with hope. Mia. Can we meet? Mia asked, her voice steady. I need to talk to you. Of course, Daniel said quickly. Where? The park, Mia replied. Where we first met. That afternoon Mia and Daniel sat on the same bench where they had shared their first conversation. The park was quiet, the sun casting a golden glow over the trees. Mia, Daniel began, his voice trembling, I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you. I was just scared. Mia looked at him, her eyes filled with sadness. I know, Daniel. And I understand why you did it. But that doesn't change the fact that you lied to me. You made me believe you were someone you're not. Daniel nodded, his eyes downcast. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me. Mia sighed. I love you, Daniel. But love isn't enough if there's no trust. I need to know that you'll be honest with me from now on. No more secrets. Daniel looked up, his eyes filled with determination. I promise, Mia. No more secrets. From now on it's just you and me. No lies, no games. Mia studied his face, searching for any hint of deception. But all she saw was sincerity. Slowly she reached for his hand. Hey, Daniel. Let's try again. Daniel's face lit up with relief. He squeezed her hand gently. Thank you, Mia. I won't let you down. For a while things were good. Mia and Daniel worked on rebuilding their relationship, one honest conversation at a time. But just as they began to find their footing, Vanessa struck again. One evening as Mia was leaving the office, she found a note on her car. It was from Vanessa, and the words sent chills down her spine. You think you've won, but you haven't. I'll make sure you regret taking Daniel from me. Mia's hands trembled as she read the note. She quickly called Daniel, who rushed to her side. Together they reported the incident to the police, but Vanessa was nowhere to be found. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Vanessa's threats became more frequent and more dangerous. She vandalized Mia's car, sent threatening messages, and even tried to break into her apartment. Mia felt like she was living in constant fear. Daniel did everything he could to protect her. He hired security, installed cameras, and even offered to let Mia stay at the mansion. But no matter what they did, Vanessa always found a way to strike. One night, as Mia and Daniel sat together in the mansion's living room, Mia turned to him with tears in her eyes. Daniel, I can't do this anymore, she said, her voice breaking. I love you, but I can't live like this. I'm always looking over my shoulder, always afraid. I feel like I'm losing myself. Daniel's heart ached. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Mia, I'm so sorry, Daniel said, his voice filled with pain. I never wanted this for you. I just wanted to love you. Mia shook her head, her tears falling freely. I know, Daniel. And I love you too. But love isn't enough if it comes with this much pain. I need to protect myself. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. What are you saying? Mia took a deep breath, her heart breaking as she spoke the words. I think we need to take a break. I need time to figure out what I want. Daniel nodded, his face pale. I understand, Mia. I'll give you all the time you need. But please don't give up on us. We can get through this. Mia stood up, her heart heavy. I don't know, Daniel. I just don't know. As Mia walked away, Daniel felt a deep sense of loss. He had finally found the woman he wanted to spend his life with, but his lies and Vanessa's schemes had driven a wedge between them. The once bright future they had dreamed of now seemed uncertain. The story ends on a bittersweet note. Mia and Daniel's love was real, but the scars of mistrust and fear ran deep. Vanessa's threats continued to loom over them, a constant reminder of the chaos that had torn them apart.